and welcome to the Boomtown Hoops training camp preview. I'm your host, Bobby Howard. With me today, as always, we got Cody Beat and making his debut, Jameson Maxwell. Guys, welcome on. Can you believe we're at this point right now? That training camp's going on. We have interviews. First preseason games in 9 days. Cody, it seems just like yesterday we were mourning the Rockets' loss.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's a very condensed year. I think it's less than, 2.5, 3 months since the last time that we actually had some pro basketball between the Heat and the Lakers. And it's, I'm just excited. It's nice to get the NBA season back and going. And we're going to talk about a lot of stuff tonight, so definitely ready to dive in.
Yeah, absolutely. Jameson, you ready to get this thing going?
Yeah, totally. It's crazy just seeing, the press conferences that have been happening right now, just seeing who they're going to put out there just to talk to us because our team is so much in question. And, our first game's on the 22nd. We need to figure out what's going on with us right now. And does the Thunder even know? So it's going to be a really exciting 9 days.
Yeah, and let's just break that down right away. We can talk about the guys we've lost, the trades later, but right now let's just get right into it. What is the starting five going to look like going into opening night? Obviously, I think we'll see, some lineup changes, some shifts going on, but really, I don't know. I think you look at Shea. He's obviously, I think, going to start at point. Probably Dort at shooting guard. 3 is where it gets weird. The 3-4 don't really have a solid standout 3. Baisley, I guess you could put at 4, and then Al Horford at center. But Cody, I'll let you start on this one. Who would your starting 5 be today if you were Coach Mark Denault?
Obviously, probably the 3 young guys being Shea, Dort, and Baisley, and then throwing Horford out there at the 5 because we really don't have anybody besides Muscala at the 5. And then, like you said, the small forward position, a little up in the air. You kind of feel like it might be Justin Jackson or Trevor Ariza. I would probably lean more towards Justin Jackson. He's a little younger. You could kind of see what he can do next to some of these guys like Shea and Dort and Baisley because he's a little older. I think he's 25, but he kind of fits the timeline. If we want to go into a rebuild, he could be a small forward that we could potentially have in the future. And you can even, I think there were some times last year whenever you saw Dort or Shea would go into the 3 and a 3-guard lineup. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe you see George Hill out there at some point as well in the starting lineup.
Yeah, that's going to be really interesting what we do with those veteran pieces, whether we move them. We'll get to that a little later. But Jameson, who's your starting 5? I think it's probably pretty chalk, but I'm really curious to think who you have at 3.
Yeah, it's really tough. Putting out a guy like Trevor Ariza at the 3, just from what we know in the past, would make sense. But how much are we gauging on we're trying to get Trevor Ariza stocked up so we could trade him at the trade deadline versus how much do we want to see more of our younger guys and get them a chance to show some minutes and maybe be a guy that we can move on forward in this rebuild? I personally think just because Mark Daigneault was here in the past, that we would try a guy like Hamidou Diallo at the 3, even though I see him more as a 4. More of a hustle guy, and hopefully improve his corner 3. But just because Daigneault's been here, I feel like he'd kind of keep Hami in that spot. But I would love to see Justin Jackson. I agree with that point. He's got a great offensive game, great shooting. Definitely would be very helpful in being next to Dort as well. Having Dort and Hami on the court really does shrink our shooting a lot.
Yeah, absolutely, because that's a huge point for Diallo to improve on. Not a very consistent shooter at all. So that's one of the things I really would love to see out of Diallo. I think I'm with you. You want to give the younger guys some more reps. I think Jackson is a solid piece. And why not? Honestly, at this point, this is not looking like a very strong contending team at all. So development is, the name of the game here. Let's get the young guy going instead of, a guy like Ariza who, we're really just keeping to dish him at the trade deadline or some point down the road.
Mm-hmm.
So we've kind of talked about where we are. Let's talk about where we have been in this wild, crazy past couple weeks. Obviously, some huge names are out. Danilo Gallinari, I got to play it for you one more time, buddy. We're going to miss you, but we got to hit it. I'm going to miss that man so much. Gallinari's gone. We lost Steven Adams, which is a devastating blow to a lot of the Oklahoma City fan base. I don't know what we're going to do with the mural. I kind of hope we keep it. But a lot of old friends gone. The rebuild is finally here. So let's break down these trades. So, Cody, of the moves we've made, which is the one you like the most? I know it's just some form of guys we got rid of to get picks, but which one did you like? Which one have you been most impressed with so far?
I was really impressed with the Steven Adams trade. I really didn't think that we were going to get that much back for Steven. He's one of my favorite players that we've had here, and it was tough to lose him just because he's a great personality. He's great on the court, off the floor kind of guy. But to get a first-round pick, lottery protected first-round pick from Denver, 2 seconds, and George Hill, who is shot over 40% from three last year with the Bucks, who we can easily move to another team at some point. It was an incredible haul for an expiring center that was overpaid. And, we've seen his extension, he got $17 million extension. I don't think there was any way that Sam Presti was going to pay that on an extension for a center that can't shoot. So yeah, I thought that was the most impressive trade. And honestly, the most surprising.
Yeah, I was less surprised that we were trying to get rid of Adams, more surprised that we got what we got for him. Because again, the market for centers got really, really lucrative out of nowhere this summer. Or whatever, fall. Yeah, it still feels like an NBA summer condensed to 2 weeks. But Jameson, which trade was your favorite? And let me just be honest, why was it the Steven Adams one?
Yeah, it's Steven Adams because everyone wants assets right now. Are you kidding me? Like, assets is like the name of the game. And getting those 2 second rounders along with the first, that's the big key there. It was a 2023 from Charlotte and a 2024 from Washington. We don't know how those teams are going to be in the future, but we know that those are smaller market teams, and those second round picks could actually be valuable. And Steven Adams, you love the guy, but after his stock went down severely in that Rockets series, and I understand that all centers are going to look bad versus the Rockets, no way, shape, or form did I see him grabbing as much as he did, and essentially probably going to be 2 first rounders in 2 seconds if we can get George Hill a trade to a very good team, into the first round pick. But you got to be happy for Steven as well. That's also why you got to be happy, because New Orleans is almost a perfect situation for him. Stan Van Gundy has been proven to be like Steven said, he's kind of an old school guy. He coached Dwight Howard very well. He has experience with Andre Drummond as well, with the great centers that he's coached. He knows how to coach a big man, and Steven's going to fit in great there. And they hold him to a high regard. So we got to be happy for Steven too.
Yeah, well, plus he's going to a place with an amazing culinary scene, and we know Steven Adams is going to absolutely love that. Let's just hope he doesn't love it too much. We saw what happened to Kendrick Perkins when he joined the Pelicans. It got a little dicey, but either way, good. Best of luck to Steve. We're all going to miss him, but not going to miss that money on the books at all. So obviously, all of these moves were to get assets. And to try our best to not take any money back. But of the deals we've made, which one kind of feels the worst to you? Cody, I'll let you start.
We traded Oubre into Golden State's trade exception, and I think that they're going to be pretty good this year. Obviously we think that trading Oubre to them means that we will probably get their first round pick. As I assume why Sam would make a top 20 protected and have those negotiations. We just kind of felt like you might be able to get a little bit more for, a young wing that shot almost 40% from three last year and scored 18 points a game. But hey, if that's the deal that you want to do and you want to get that money off the books, then, you got a first round pick for him. So I kind of felt like we could have gotten some more value for him, but at this point, Presti has 18 first round picks in the next 7 years. It's not like he needs a whole lot more.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a big war chest, as you wrote for boomtownhoops.com. So, adding anything onto it is good, no matter the cost. Jameson, what were your thoughts on the Oubre deal?
Yeah. So we could have gotten more assets for him, but we've got to think about how our roster is set up right now. We have 20 plus players on this team, and we traded Oubre into cap space without taking anything back. So therefore we saved money on his contract. Plus we didn't have to take on extra players, which we're having to cut guys right now as well. And we got a first round pick that if it lands between 21 and 30, we get it. And we also got a second round pick, which didn't come out until later. So honestly, pretty decent. We could have held him until that trade deadline, and he could have been scoring points, and we'd have had a pretty decent team. But with that, it pushed us too far to mediocrity, because in the NBA, you don't want to be mediocre. You either want to be really good, really bad. And that didn't look like our vision towards the future. I didn't see any way, shape, or form we re-signed Kelly Oubre, nor would he want to re-sign in Oklahoma City. So what's the point in keeping him for a half a season if he wasn't going to do too much positive for our long-term plans?
Yeah, fair enough, because I think he would have been a very good piece. I know a lot of, Thunder fans wanted him on board to try to make another kind of weird run like we did this past year. I just don't see that in the cards. I know Sam Presti's talked about it, but honestly, I'm just here to tank. I'm very okay with that. I know that's kind of a hard pill to swallow for a team and a fan base that's done nothing but be, consistent winners. But hey, that's just kind of how we are, and that's how you get back to the top.
Yeah, I guess people have forgotten that, for us to start this initial run, we had to have Kevin Durant at the second pick of the draft, Russell Westbrook at the fourth pick, and James Harden at the third pick in consecutive years. Like, you have to get those high priority picks to be effective like that in a small market.
Yeah, the people of Seattle had to watch some really bad basketball just for us to take those assets we got from there and really thrive. But, hey, I'm okay with that. I didn't have to watch too much of it. So let's move on. So not only have we acquired a large amount of draft picks, but we actually used one, technically two, because we traded up to get Alexei Pokusevski, or as we all call him, Poku, with the 17th pick. How are we feeling about Poku? I know he's kind of a project. Jameson, I know you have a little bit of insight on him. We saw him a bit today talking. But do you have any, I guess, how bright is the future for Poku?
I think from where we picked him, it is exactly what we needed. This is a guy who, if he was a month younger, he couldn't even be in this draft. So he's the youngest possible player you could pick, which is great for our timeline. Also, he's a boom or bust guy. He's a 7-footer, but he plays like a 3. And you'll see him as a big, but he's not going to play center in this league. He's going to be a high IQ, good passer, can shoot the ball, and then hopefully we put a little muscle on him so we can play him as the 4 moving forward. But as a 3, if he has a good enough skills and he can move his feet good enough, he's going to be a great 3 if he can keep up his progression. But like I said, he's 18, turns 19 in December. This team could not have picked a better player at the position we were at number 17 in this draft.
Yep. He has a high ceiling, and we don't need to win now, so let the guy develop. Cody, how are you feeling about Poku?
Yeah, I love the home run swing, trying to pick him at that position. Like Jameson was saying, at 17, he could end up being the best player in the draft with how weak of a draft class this was, just based on potential. He's a 7'3" or 7'1" guy that handles the ball like a guard, can pass really well. A lot of that is against second league Greece. So it's not like it looked like he was playing in junior high gym like it is over here. But yeah, he just has, a lot of work to do, obviously. Needs to get stronger. I think he came to the perfect market where he can put on some weight. Just excited to see how he grows. I know the Porzingis comparisons are out there just because they're both from, the Eastern Europe and tall and lanky. I don't necessarily see that. But, hey, if he could turn into a wing Porzingis, that'd be great.
Yeah, I wouldn't say no to a Porzingis. Jameson, you kind of reacted a little to that.
Yeah, he's not a Porzingis. It's just easy to compare him to that. He's going to be a lot thinner than Porzingis. Porzingis has really put on a lot of weight. I'm a little bit nervous about his body and how it is right now. He's still 18, so I don't know. But how much weight he can put on. But Porzingis is a 5 and a 4. I think Poku's a 3 and a 4. And I hate I really, really hate to make this comparison, but he's going to play a position kind of like Kevin Durant. He's not Kevin Durant. I'm not making that comparison. I'm not making that comparison. But that is the style, you know, a near 7-footer of Kevin Durant. And his game is how Poku will want to morph his game to be like.
Well, I'm going to go on the Twitter and retweet it saying, you know, at Jameson Trufity calling for the next KD will get so many page views and likes. I'm all for it. Not really. But anyways, so we did some talking about Poku, but there's also another pretty solid pick we got as well. Theo Maledon out of France. He was mentored by Tony Parker. Really strong guy early on, pretty big point guard, but took a bit of a dip as the season's gone on. Parker had some words to say about, you know, the way his coach was, you know, kind of pulling him, kind of holding him back a bit, but he looks like a really promising prospect at the point. And it's interesting because we have another young point guard as well. And Ty Jerome, obviously SGA, you know, he's the guy, but which guy would you kind of want to see get more burn, Ty Jerome or Theo Maledon? Cody, I'll let you start.
I'd probably lean more towards Ty Jerome at the beginning, just because you know what you have from him. He's been over in the NBA for a year with the Phoenix Suns. At least give him kind of a run to start the season, and then bring Maledon along, because you know, he's not even in training camp yet because that deal hasn't been finalized with the Sixers. So he's going to, I mean, for him to miss a couple, you know, week of training camp whenever we're not going to really be wanting to win a whole lot of games this season isn't a big deal. But, you know, he needs to get into Oklahoma City, he needs to get into the system, get familiar with the guys. So I think that he'll probably be our backup point guard to start the season. But I would love for him to take over that spot, you know, at some point. It seems like he has a lot of promise. Tony Parker is very high on him, and that's someone I think is in high regards, you know, throughout the NBA. And so it sounded like he was a little upset with his coach, because Tony Parker owns that team, and how he kind of reacted with some confrontation with Maledon. So it sounded like it was kind of a personal thing, and why he wasn't playing too much last year. You know, that could just be smoke as well. You know, who knows? But it sounds like we got a pretty good value pick at a beginning of the second round.
Absolutely. I'm all for it. Presti, kind of well documented, was one of the first guys to really scout Tony Parker in France. So this is a kind of fun full circle moment. And I'm not saying he's Tony Parker, because he's actually kind of tall, but Jameson, who would you give more burn to?
I completely agree. At the beginning of the season, you give it to Ty Jerome, because he's going to have more time with us, more time to get in a very, very new team, you know, just a smorgasbord of everybody. Just there's, you know, like 10 plus new players that are going to be on this 15-man roster. So it's going to take a lot, and it's going to really, really help having a guy who's had 1 year under him. But moving on, I would really like to see Teo more than Jerome. Jerome made me nervous last year just because his three-point shooting was a little bit lower than I'd hoped for, especially at the guard position. And if he's not a freak athlete, if you're a very smart guy, got high IQ but can't shoot the ball, it's hard for you to keep a position in this league. That is just his rookie year. The way he played at Virginia is a priceless kind of player. It would be a perfect bench player in the NBA, and that's what we're hoping to get out of him. But I really like Teo's upside. I think he can be a good piece. He's a perfect ball handler next to Shea. I know we want Shea to be our primary ball handler. Just throw him into the fire, flood him, see what happens. But Teo is a perfect side-by-side guy next to Shea when it comes down to his game. I think better than what Jerome would be.
I'm now incredibly worried that I've been pronouncing Theo or Teo Maledon's name wrong, which, again, Presti, always with the weird names. You know, I'm just saying, Andre Roberson, that took me like 3 years to sort out. So I don't know.
Let's just say Mark Daignault, right?
Mark Daignault. There we go. We're working on it.
Daignault.
Mark Daignault. Yeah, it's hard enough to spell. Like, that's been a huge issue. But hey, at least we can try to pronounce it right here and go from there. Anyways, so moving on to two pieces. Not probably going to stay along in Oklahoma City very long. And that's George Hill and Trevor Ariza. how long do y'all see us keeping him for a full season, or are we trying to get rid of him? Because I know, Jameson, as you've written, we have to get down to 15. We're currently sitting at 20. And do you see George Hill or Trevor Ariza being dealt here? I know there's some rules around how we can deal them, or any holds on that. But how do you see them playing into Presti's plan this season?
Yeah, I feel like even though there is a hold on when we can trade him, it'd be in about a week so we could actually officially trade him. That news would come out anyways, just for like the betterment of the player and just for everything, because it's essentially just going to happen, just like the Al Horford deal. It can't happen until then, but it was announced all the way back on draft day. At this point, I'm starting to think that we might hold on to him. I don't think we're getting offers that we want, and maybe kind of all of the steam of everyone paying high prices on the trade market and free agency is kind of calmed down. So Presti might hold him in his pocket until that trade deadline. But I don't know where I see George Hill on this team with all of our young guards. It's extremely guard heavy. And I know we don't know the specifics of the Frank Jackson contract, but I know that that's a guy that Sam Presti coveted in that 2017 draft, a guy that was rumored to have been promised before we picked Terrence Ferguson. And Thunder's promises, we see they usually pan out. Reggie Jackson, Alexei Pokusevski, it happens. So I don't know where we see George Hill fitting, but I think it's kind of should we just hold on to him for a better draft pick, or should we give him a little bit of minutes and then take some out of our younger guys? So it's kind of a weird thing here.
Yeah, for sure. It's certainly an odd situation. Cody, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I'm just surprised we haven't gotten anything that Presti would want for George Hill at this point. It seemed like whenever we were able to get him in that Steven Adams trade, that someone would come and want a guard that can shoot from three, above 40% last year. Someone like the Nets came to mind pretty easily, even, with the Klay Thompson injury. I know the Warriors have a crazy tax bill right now, but, I'm sure they could find a use for a guard that can shoot the three really well. Or even, the Clippers or even the Lakers. It seems like there should be a market for him. Obviously there's not right now, because Sam would have traded him by now. And so I think at this point you probably give him a little bit of run to show that he could still shoot the ball. I honestly don't know if Trevor Ariza even steps foot in Oklahoma City. It kind of seems like an Andre Iguodala instance in Memphis last year, where maybe both sides just don't really care to have the other one there, and then maybe you can flip him or buy him out at some point if you can't get any type of deal. And he can just go wherever he wants at some point at the trade deadline.
I could see that being a very apt comparison because, like you said, Ariza doesn't make any sense on this team, and I could very much see that.
I completely agree. I almost, at this point, the more I'm looking into it, I could see a buyout for him, which would make complete sense because it would save us money if we, if his contract was like, 12 million, somewhere in that range. If we could take 4 million off the top and save that, that is an extremely good deal, because that cuts our roster at one point. And when everyone else on our roster already right now has guaranteed contract money, that's another way to save some more money. And I don't think that would be a problem at all. Essentially, if we are only going to get a second round pick back for Ariza, and people pay for second round picks at draft time for around $4 million, if we can buy him out for $8 million, just might as well save that $4 million later if we ever want a second round pick in the future.
Yeah, and you're going to be bringing back money anyways if you do trade him, because that $12 million, you got to make it up somewhere. Yeah,
that's true. That is very true. And the Thunder are on a one-way course right to the cap floor. I'm here for it. But yeah, so that's all I kind of have. There is some breaking news that dropped.
Oh gosh!
So we need a breaking news video or a little sound clip. Russell Westbrook is going to wear number 4 for the Washington Wizards.
What? Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect. It's his high school number.
Is it?
Yeah. I think he wore it for or was that? I think his friend who passed away in high school wore 3. I think 4 is just, again, his high school number. And hey, maybe he's just paying some respects to the original Agent Zero. You can't take away from Gilbert Arenas, I guess. But
I love Gilbert Arenas. He was one of my favorite players growing up. But it also, he's got 3 kids and a wife, so there's 4. I saw that tweet online somewhere. But Russell Westbrook in Washington's just great. I think that's just – it's just happy. I just feel so happy for him over there. I think it's going to be a great fit.
I'm just so happy he's not in Houston anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a little selfish me saying that too. That's why I said I'm happy.
Yeah, I'm sure he obviously wanted it to work out better, but I don't know. Cody, I know you're pumped because you feel a little bit better looking at the Westbrook jersey behind you there. So yeah, there he is. Yeah, it just feels a little bit better. It doesn't feel as weird and gross, rooting for Russ on the Rockets. And I don't know. I feel like I can fully kind of get behind them as my Eastern Conference team now. And I don't know. It'll be a fun season. And I think him and Beal are a pretty solid fit.
Is the Wizards and the Nets in the same division?
Are they?
I don't think maybe because they're in the Knicks division. So
I have a weird
be like Boston and Philly and New York and
because I can't wait if they are. I can't wait for 4 games of Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook.
Okay, I actually think they're in the Southeast with with Orlando, Miami, because I know there was conversation about switching Toronto and the Wizards because because of travel. But anyway, so that'll be fun. But Jameson, Cody, anything you want to say before we head out?
Really no. I guess moving forward, these next couple games, next couple days, it's going to be I'm going to be really curious how we can get a roster down to 15. I wrote that article, but I said at the end, and by the time some of y'all read this, it's probably going to be changed by then. And it has, we saw that Cheatham and Gray got cut, but I just don't see the direction moving forward of how we're going to make some trades in the time being. I think we're going to see a lot of cuts moving forward, just the easy move rather than making these fun trades. It would have been really nice to take on Batum's contract, like I said, but somehow that didn't work out. But we're going to see a lot of cuts moving forward, and that's going to be the biggest story for the next 10 days.
Yep. Cody, final thoughts?
First preseason games next Saturday against the Spurs. Excited for that. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, it'll be good. It'll just be fun to see whatever they throw out there. I don't know. And then we have Billy Donovan coming to OKC for 2 games. So nice to have old Billy back, I guess. But anyways, well, folks, thank you so much for listening. It's always been a fun time, and we're really looking forward to this season, even though it's going to be a bit of a mess. But hey, we're all in this together. So strap in. We're gonna ride this tank all the way down to the cap floor and have ourselves a good time while doing it. So just stay positive, keep supporting the team, and we'll see you next time. But for now, we got to play out with our traditional outro.
Oklahoma, oh, City Thunder, hey, hey, Oklahoma, oh, City Thunder, hey, hey, Oklahoma, oh, City Thunder, hey, hey, Oklahoma, oh, City Thunder, hey, hey. We like to rock in the OKC, in the OKC, in the OKC. We like to rock in the OKC, in the OKC,